everybody. See some new faces in the crowd, so it's good to have everybody here. As a real quick intro to what we are doing as far as the class that we're going through, we started off quickly just saying that whatever we're going to learn as parents, we should be taking from the Bible. That's our source book. That was our first lesson. And then going on from there, trying to look at what a family is, God creating man and woman to be a family right from the beginning, and that a child doesn't complete the family, but children are additions to the family. And then last week we talked about what's the base source that we need to pay attention to as far as going forward. And one thing that kind of undergirds everything else is the foundation is love. So we'll do a little bit of review on that. With parenting families, everybody does it a little bit differently, and that's okay. We're going to talk about parenting children. Last week's lesson was love is the answer. And that had to do with, it's really the base foundation of what we're doing as in our parenting. We learned that Jesus said in Matthew that love was a command. He said, a new command I give to you is love one another. From that we inferred that if it's a command, anybody can do it. It's not a feeling. It's not something that we have to sit back and not be able to work on and improve. You have to become proficient at it, and to do that, it takes practice. We talked about the 5 love languages. Those were, according to Dr. Gary Chapman, acts of service, words of encouragement, gift giving, quality time spent together, and physical touch and closeness. He said these are 5 ways that people express love for one another, and the way that people like to receive and get that language of love from one another. And what I appreciate is showing love as far as one of these 5 categories might not be the same thing that you do. Therefore, we have to be careful with how we go forward and react to those and what we show to each other. Learn to speak your families, not just your spouses, but also your sons and your daughters, their love language. One of these is your primary, one's the primary for everyone else in your family. Of course, we went through the examples last week about our family members killing themselves, doing a wonderful job on the yard. Mom comes back and gushes poetically, as moms tend to do, and gives that verbal encouragement. Dad comes back and gives them a smack on the arm, it's a good job, way to go, son. And they might be looking for something else. So, which family member were you? Let's take just a couple of minutes, and I'm not trying to get everybody to bare their souls here or anything, but what are some of the ways? I mean, for me, I was trying to think about that. I mean, all those 5 that are there I like. I mean, it's not like, oh, don't touch me. Some people are like that. But the words of encouragement, I think, maybe had to be the top one on my list. I like things to be noticed when I do it. Don't know I'm making a difference, and just somebody saying, hey, good job. That's a nice one. Anybody else?
Yeah. Words of affirmation, which I didn't realize until after I got married, that I do need those words of encouragement, that I need you to say I love you, not just show me.
Okay.
So I'm very much words of affirmation.
And Jeff does that wonderfully, doesn't he? He's a work in progress. Yeah. We'll talk about anybody else. All right. Well, make it your job to know what each member's love language is and speak it to them. Okay? Give the person what they will appreciate. Show them love by speaking the same language. Now, when it comes to our kids, this was like the main point. If you didn't take anything else away from it, take this away. Your responsibility to accept their language with charity. Be generous. When the kid's like snotted all over his donut and wants you to have a bite, don't smack it out of his hand and say, get out of here. You at least pretend to take a bite. Do something that's very generous of you, Johnny. We'll just put this over here. We'll save it for later. Do something. But
You won't even take a bite? It's a donut. Just eat the part.
go around to the opposite end where his hand that's been in the mud has been holding it. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead and affirm that. You want to make sure that you aren't doing anything that might send a negative message when they're sharing their love for you. Okay, so we kind of skipped to that already. All right, love is important in developing what? That's kind of a nebulous question, but let's kick it around a little bit. Wow, right off the bat. Okay, very good. Trust. It's important for your children to have trust in you as a parent. It says we experience joy when we learn to trust. And that's what our lesson's going to be about this morning, is just fostering this trust in our children, their ability to come to you no matter what. They should be able to know that they're going to come to you. Now, there's some people out there that say, well, your kid should never feel judged when they come to you. I don't ascribe to that. There are times when kids mess up and we need to let them know they messed up. But they should also be comfortable enough to know that they can come to you with that and things are going to turn out all right in the end. It might be unpleasant in the short term, but it's going to be all right. Well, how do we define trust? It's not an emotion, but it's a feeling of sustained confidence in someone, or you might say something. A belief that a person or thing will do what it's supposed to do. You should be able to know that when your kids come to you as a parent, that they should have an established reaction. It should be something that's consistent, something that they can expect. Trust binds us together in relationships. The higher the trust you have, the tighter the bond you're going to have with the children and the parent. And children who do not trust their parents cannot be connected to them, or at least we'd say they can't be connected to them very well, because it's hard to foster that relationship when there's that impasse or uncertainty.
Create an unhealthy relationship.
Okay, yeah.
Always trying to please a parent and they're never there, so it could just...
Yeah, it could be a bad relationship that you're fostering if we don't do it right. All right, dads have a significant role in developing trust in our culture. Okay, our pop quiz, can we name the TV shows? Who's this? Father Knows Best. You'd never see that as a title on any sitcom nowadays. There's Robert Young. This is back in the 50s. This is back when things kind of revolved around things blowing up and Dad putting it back together and comedy ensues. You know, it's that kind of a thing. Then we get to the 60s. It's a little bit more like that. The Shaggy Dog. This is My Three Sons. You know, Robbie, Chip, Ernie. Come on, guys. Showing my age here.
The earlier one, Mike was the oldest son, and then they adopted Chip when Mike got married.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, so if you guys want to brush up on any of these, get with Art. He'll show you. I just remember, again, Fred McMurray was the dad, and he was generally the sensible one. I remember one show where, I forget which, I guess it was Ernie, was reading up on psychology. So he's doing all these things, doing all these experiments on everybody. He had Uncle Charlie convinced that he was growing taller by sawing pieces off of his cane at the bottom. So he's doing stuff like that. And then he was trying to tell, you know, they say the crop of tomatoes this year is sweeter, you know, and he's putting sugar in the ketchup. And everybody's buying into it. And then they sit down to the table and Dad says, who put sugar in the ketchup? Yeah. So again, you know, Dad's kind of the one holding things together. We get to Happy Days, you know, Tom Bosley, that guy. He always seemed to be the one. Again, most of the stuff that was going around had to do with Richie and all the gang and everything, but when they wanted to have words of advice, if they wanted to get problems taken care of, they generally would come to Dad. Okay. We kind of do a shift from there till we start getting the 80s and 90s. And you can just kind of tell by the Dad's kind of promoted as just a general idiot. That's all it boils down to. I didn't watch a lot of that show, Roseanne, but I don't know how many times I went to Dan for the voice of reason. This guy for sure not. So today's lesson deals primarily with fathers, but moms also have an impact in this area of trust also. Who do you want to shape your child's future? Who do you want them to go to as far as advice? Who do you want them to turn to in times of problems? This is what you should be thinking of. Now, our scripture that we have in this. Ephesians 6:1, all parents love the first verse. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Okay? Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment of the promise, so it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. There's a whole lot packed into that verse number 4. What's the first thing? Fathers. Did he say parents? No. This could be a cultural thing. Could be that it was expected that the dad would be the one basically as the head of the household, and that's as it should be. But I don't think it's insignificant that he doesn't say fathers and mothers don't. Because I think the dads have a little bit more of a propensity to do this than the moms do. It's not saying that moms never do. What's the other thing? He says, don't exasperate. What does exasperate mean? Frustrate them. Wear them out. Okay, wear them down. Provoke your children to anger. Okay. All right. I like the juxtaposition there, and I think we forget about that sometimes. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Okay. A whole lot of different ways we can exasperate our kids. There's a lot of ways to frustrate them. Most of it, I think, kind of hinges on us, whether we're fair in our treatment of them. But when it comes down to it, when we're bringing them up in the training and instruction of the Lord, we're doing a lot to go ahead and not exasperate them. And this, when kids are looking for consistency, they're looking for grounding, they're looking for a framework to work in. If you're giving them that framework in the Word of God, I think you've gone a long way as towards not exasperating them.
Hey, Dan, are we sure in the original Greek it wasn't the other way around? Children exasperating?
I'm not going to go there, John. Yeah, there's plenty to go around, but we have to be the adults, right? Right. All right. Okay, but back to our first question here. Who do you want them to go to? If you are not trustworthy or approachable, it's going to be their peer group, okay? And a whole lot can go wrong with that. Okay, talking about dad as a leader. Dads might have a more challenging time bonding with the children if they're away during the work day. Might not be as tuned in as to what makes each kid tick, because you don't have as much one-on-one time. So dads need to be aware of that. They also need to be aware they don't know the dynamic that's happened during the day, and by the end of the workday, they might be weary, need to develop patience to engage in the family problems. Take time. Yeah. Just watch the nanny cam all day. Don't think the boss would approve. All right. But dads, as you're coming back, yeah, you might know not all that's going on. You might have done on your ride home trying to, okay, let's get rid of the conflict of the workday. I'm going to go in with a good attitude. And you walk in and everything's going crazy. I remember vividly one day coming home and Rhonda was kind of at the end of her rope, but I walked in and we've got one kid that's drawing on something she shouldn't have been. The other one's crying at the top of her lungs, and then one's just spinning in the middle of the floor, you know? So you can come home to days like that, and that's okay. Expect that maybe, or be pleasantly surprised when you walk in it's not that way. But take time to be patient and get involved. Don't just, this is the last thing I need to deal with. That shouldn't be your attitude. Okay, moms have hazard pay duty, okay? Their stay-at-home moms are immersed in the fray continually. And dads need to be sensitive and respectful to this. And remember that when you come in. She's fought the fight all day. Give her some time. Okay, I'm going to corral the kids and do whatever we need to do. Moms, remember dad has to be brought up to speed slowly with small words, okay? When we walk in, as much as we want to help, it's not fair to say, they're yours, and storm out the door, okay? A little context is needed about what's going on, a little framework as to what our problems of the day are, what our continuing problems are, what we're trying to work on. Dads, don't be knee-jerk with a reaction. 2 minutes into the explanation of what's going on. Well, why don't you just do such and such? Guilty of that one. It's a little more complicated than what you probably think needs to be done. Guys are fixers, and that's going to be our, well, just do this, that fixes it. No. Because you got to remember one thing. Mom might be just blowing off steam to an adult. That might be what she needs at that time, is talking to a person who's not this high. But she also needs you to listen. Or she might not be finished giving the lay of the land. Remember, women use 20,000 words. Guys, 10,000. So be patient. Something that guys say, and I don't know, this might be, if you can frame this better, do you want me to listen or do you want me to do something? Okay. You might even get in trouble for saying that. I don't know. Well, you will get in trouble. Is that what? All right. Yeah. Think that in your head.
Patience comes in. We've had to deal with someone this big.
Yeah. Think that in your head and navigate the icebergs as you go. Okay. Think about, is this something I need to step in, or should I just be listening at this point? And guys, guys who like to do stuff, they'll be listening. They'll start getting antsy. Oh, I got to do something. It's not always what's needed. So, moms and dads, by coming to reasoned, well thought out judgments to problems, you foster trust. Take some time to get into the nitty gritty of what's going on and come up with a reasoned plan, including each other, and get that idea of what you want to do as far as raising the kid, framing them, disciplining, whatever you have to do with the problem. But by being consistent and them seeing that you guys are on the same page, that fosters trust also. Try to get both sides of the story, fosters trust. Don't always take one kid's word over the other, even if the other one is an habitual liar. It might be the one time that they're not lying, so be careful. Striving to be fair fosters trust also. The kids see you're trying to give everybody an even break and be fair, that helps. Being consistent fosters trust. So all these things in dealing with your children. Has anybody ever had a situation where they've really muffed it with their kids? Yeah, no hands go. Yeah, I think. It can be tricky because about the one time you think you've got the situation pegged and you jump in and jump the gun, it is likely exactly like what I said. The one kid who has the problem never seems to tell you the truth, and your oldest, who's the lawyer or the reporter on all that goes wrong, they could be gaming you. Go ahead.
Our challenge, or my challenge, is that with our boys, they're not really good at communicating to begin with, especially their feelings or what's going on in their head.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was a bad grade that we're dealing with or something like that, I'm asking for explanation. I'm trying to dig it out and go, what happened? Try to get the story.
Mm-hmm.
And going a couple slides back to exasperating the children, it can be frustrating when they're not communicating well, and I'm trying to ask those questions to get to the bottom of it, and we're just not getting anywhere. And then I make draw my own conclusions,
Mm-hmm.
and I go, here's what I think happened, and I lay it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get upset, that's when you know that you misjudged it.
Uh-huh.
Because they couldn't verbalize it, but they were trying. Sometimes we snuff them out and go, all right, stop talking because you're just mumbling and babbling on,
Mm-hmm.
not getting anywhere. And so one of our challenges is we need to step back and let them actually communicate
Mm-hmm.
the best they can, and then try not to jump in too much and let them have their say.
One thing that we did with our kids sometimes is we'd kind of get that where we weren't really sure whether they're verbalizing well or expressing everything they needed to. Not so much of okay, you're really telling the truth. It's more of, okay, I'm standing over you. You probably feel intimidated. So we would even have them, okay, write me a one-page summary of the problem. What's going on? Okay. Also, you can grade for grammar and all that good stuff afterwards. Right. What are some other ways we can develop trust with our children? Cultivate a sense of family identity. This is kind of a big one. You've got to realize each member of the family should feel accepted for their differences, especially with kids. It's really kind of a tough one. Because kids are always looking to see how they compare with the siblings. They're not only how you're treating them, but we have to be careful because, okay, kid number 1 comes along and is fantastic at sports. Kid number 2 could come along and they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a ball or whatever they're doing. But so we have to be, the natural tendency might be for the younger one to, okay, yeah, brother's doing it, I want to do it too. Well, that's fine, but you've got to make sure that their expectations know that no matter whether you're as good as brother or not, you're still accepted as part of the family, you're still loved, you're still a kid. Loyalty to the family as a unit is big. Some of the things you might have heard before is when somebody would say, well, I can, bag on my family all day, complain, say rude things, you better not say anything about them though. And a lot of that can foster, that attitude can foster, okay, the family is a unit, we've got each other's backs, everything's going to be good. God-centered standards and values reflected in the family. This goes back all the way back to Joshua. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, right? You guys choose what you want to do. You foster that in your kids too. The world is going to choose what they want to do. As for us, me and my house, this is what we're doing. The one thing I don't agree with a lot of what the LDS people do, one thing they do well is foster this. I went into a home I was working in, and above the door they had this saying, return with honor. That's telling those kids something is expected of you when you're going out there. Apart from just saying you're a child of God, you need to act this way. You're a Patterson, you're a Havlick, you're a whoever, okay? You are representing our family while you're out there, and it's incumbent upon you, not only as a Christian to be showing the right attitude, but also you're representing your family. You're representing us as the family unit. Okay, excitement and encouragement about everything that the family is involved in. That's a tough one for dads sometimes. Dads verbally expressing satisfaction and excitement about the family. Remember, you're dealing with only 10,000 words. Save a couple of them up. Come out there and whatever the family's doing, you come home from the end of the day and you're dragging, but it's time to go to Little League, it's time to do whatever. Don't, okay, come on, let's go. Get in the van. I don't have time for this. None of those attitudes need to be there. You need to say, okay, let's go. Let's get, you guys are doing well. You're working hard. We see your progress. You're supporting your team. You're doing the things you need to be. Whatever you're doing, if it's piano recitals, be excited about that too. Be excited about everything that they're doing. Just show some enthusiasm. That way the kids, think, okay, we're not a burden on our parents. They're actually enjoying going with us and watching us do things. That also fosters trust. Now again, it's like everything is a balance. As we talked before, we talked about child-centered parenting. If everything revolves around the child, that's not good either. But you also need to be able to show satisfaction and excitement in what they're doing and be involved in that. Demonstrating ongoing love for your spouse. What your child sees lived out. Sometimes actions do speak louder than words. Whatever's lived out in love and nurturing for your wife and husband has a strong impact in the trust that they have in you. Dads especially, with daughters. They're watching you and learning how a woman should be treated by a godly man. That's paramount importance. If they see the respect that you're giving your wife, they will come to respect that. Maybe weed out some guys who are boneheads and they don't need to be dating, that kind of thing. It has lasting impact. Okay. Understand your child's private world, and what we mean by that, well, we'll kind of try to break it down a little bit. There's their public world, which is, well, everybody has it. You're at work or school or everything that's going on. You should be involved with that. You should know what's going on with their activities, what they're working in. Their personal, which is friends and family, all they're into relationships. It's good to know their friends and all that. But then we start talking about their private world. And the author of the study, Dr. Ezzo, talks about this being a place of secrets, and I don't think he means it in a bad way. It's not like the kids are out there trying to hide things from you. Not saying that they don't do that, but I'm saying it's not always this case when you start thinking about private. Don't storm the castle of secrets with your kids. And what that means is, and if you have to, you might have waited too long to try to listen. What I mean by that is, I think it kind of goes back to Jeremy's point. When you're trying to get them to share things with you, trying to draw things out of them, a lot of that has to do with some very sensitive things. If we were talking about the bad grade, you talking with them about the bad grade and what they've done goes directly to their feelings about how you feel about them. So you might be saying, well, you need to do this, this, and this, and you need to get an outline together, and you need to, and all of that, instead of hearing what the practical things are to do, they're thinking, I'm not doing a good job. Dad's not happy with me. I'm not good enough. These things like that. These are the things that we are talking about when you're talking with kids about these secret places. There's other things that are important to them in life and that they're sensitive to that they will let you in to talk about, but it's an open window moment. It's by invitation only. There are times when you can see these places or opportunities open up, like putting a kid to bed, walks alone with them, just running errands. Take your kid to the hardware store with you on Saturday, and these might appear. You might get a little glimpse of them. Sitting around at a campfire, I don't know what it is about campfires. Campfires are kind of magical. You go out there, roast
Yeah, my kids always want to talk a bit.
yeah, okay, yeah. Well, this might be for a little bit older. It's not just a delay tactic at some point. It's some kids actually opening up a little bit because they feel safe. They're not out amongst everybody where everybody can feel, but maybe it's just a one-on-one time with you. Look for questions that, I probably worded that wrong. It's not that these questions open the window. It's the questions are an indication that a window is opening for you to step in. Be sensitive to that and don't miss it. Things like from your daughter, do you think I'm pretty? Did your friends ever talk bad about you? Okay. They're cautiously opening up a little bit to test the waters. And if you're saying, nah, my friends never talk bad about me, I'd smack them. No, it's time to say, okay, yeah, my friends did talk bad about me. Is that happening with you? What's going on? Talk to me. Even from maybe our sons, when did you ask mom out? Okay. What did you want to be when you were a kid? Two things about a young man's life is, one, this feeling about, girls are weird and, oh, maybe they're not so weird. Maybe they're kind of attractive, okay? There's that whole thing. What did you want to do when you were a kid? That time where they're transitioning from realizing, hey, high school's not going to go on forever. I'm going to have to go out into the world and find a way to support myself or a family, things like that. So be sensitive to these when they are asking questions. Try to look for those open door moments. Give your child freedom to fail. I like this quote. The worst mistake anyone can make is being too afraid to make one. Okay? And you don't want to foster that in your kids. Failure is acceptable with honest effort. In fact, it's the first steps to success. Because if you don't try, you're not going to fail, but you're not going to succeed either. A dad's wrong attitude toward failure can lead to a child who will never take chances or push the limits or develop their abilities further because they're afraid to try anything that they're going to fail at if they see that as, well, a failure. Another quote that I like is, failure is not final, and I think that's something you have to impart to your kids also. Is, look, failure is just a stepping stone. You might have not got it this time. You might not get it the next time either. But as you go forward, you're going to make improvements. You're going to learn from the experience. You're going to go on. If you meet each setback with dissatisfaction, sarcastic statements, or even disinterest, you do nothing to foster trust. You train your child not to try. Don't dismiss the hurt of a failure, an achievement, or relationship, but point out the life lesson the child can glean from it. I think I was guilty of this with my kids. You guys can talk to Bailey afterwards, but I think I somehow had it in my head that, well, if I'm pointing out the failure and talking about it, that means I'm giving that attention, and that's a bad thing. And I probably didn't address it as much as I should have and pointed the other things. Look, yeah, it is a failure. Let's talk about it. Let's address it. And my thought might have been too much of, well, if I bring up the failure that they've done, I'm focusing on that, and that's going to be a bad thing. Probably the wrong tactic. This is a great time to teach biblical wisdom at times like these. What kind of things are we talking about? Well, when we talk to a kid about what have you learned from the experience, let them know we're going to have failures. There's going to be bumps in the road in life, and that it's going to be okay. Romans 8:28, we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose. That doesn't mean that an F on the test is somehow, God's working through you with your failure on this test. No. But as a cumulative thing, on the big principle of the whole picture is that, yeah, bad things happen, but God's going to work it out, and you have to have trust in that. James 1:2-3, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Okay, again, I think James is probably addressing this more to people who are experiencing persecution as Christians. However, the same thing, the same principle can be taught to your kids. Hey, in junior high, girls are the worst. I mean, and I can say that because my wife says that. They'll backstab you. They'll do all crazy stuff. And that's when, this is the kind of thing you have to talk with your kids about. Yeah, the world, even your good friends are going to fail you at times, but this is a testing of your faith and how you're going to react to it. Romans 5:3-4, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. So that's, again, the thought of these failures, building, helping you to cope the next time there is something, a bump in the road, a failure that's going to inevitably happen.
Can I comment?
Yeah.
I think that's one thing. I was a very stubborn child, and if it wasn't my idea, I wasn't going to do it. And my mom was very creative in making me think it was my idea a lot of times. But one thing she always did is that, she'd always go to scripture or talk about God, with my mistakes or failures or good things or whatever. And she'd make that very real to me. It was like, you can't argue with God, He
Yeah.
made everything. He knows you better than anybody. So she always, that was her last, well, God said to do it. So then it was just but I'd say where? And she'd show me the scriptures.
Okay.
Because I was I wasn't going to do it unless, she had that. And so she was very good at giving me those scriptures to help mold me.
Yeah,
to be not so stubborn, I think.
it's good to know your scriptures. Kind of gives you a backup. Well, God said. Yeah. So. Another thing in dealing with your kids, accentuate the positive, yes, but don't dismiss the negative. Like I was saying, I probably didn't do the best. If we gloss over the hurt our children are feeling, we might give off the wrong message. And by that, some things, and this might not be what you say, but it might be what they take away from it. If you were a better Christian, this wouldn't bother you so much. Okay. I never give these things a second thought. Why are you such an emotional cripple? Cry me a river, build a bridge, and get over it. Okay, that might be a Dr. Phil quote. I'm not sure. Congratulations, parent, you're on the tightrope again. What I mean by that is, yes, we don't want to raise an emotional cripple. We want to have our kids enabled. We want to give them the tools to deal with failures and disappointments in life. But that's the tightrope you're on, is to teach them that, okay, no, just because you didn't get the red truck doesn't mean you need to, your whole world's falling apart, even though to you it might be at the moment. We've got to teach them that, okay, things are going to be okay. And going back to what we said, yeah, we're going to have disappointments in life. But, so don't dismiss the negative, but don't put it at the center of the universe either, I guess, at that point. As much as it may hurt your pride, share your failures. It lets them know that you can relate to the pain, but you have overcome it. Also lets them know that you're not perfect. Whatever you do, make sure they get the message that the parent-child relationship is not based either on failure or success. It's unconditional. Okay. Am I mad that you spray painted our car with spray paint? Yes. Does this mean I don't love you? No. Kids fear failing somewhat, but they fear failing someone more. They don't want to disappoint you. So that's why you have to kind of tread lightly in these instances. Encourage your child. Big difference between an encouraging remark and being an encouraging dad. Okay? Some practical activities. Try some of these, guys. Don't just, attaboys are good, but maybe you can go beyond that. Write notes and letters. Letters from old flames get tossed. Letters from dads get cherished. Take interest and praise your kids' accomplishments. Acknowledge your kids' down times and talk about it. Don't blow off life's little tragedies. Just remember it's their disaster. That's I don't know if all you know about, I used to work in the restoration business. Your house would flood or you'd have a fire. Our company would come in and clean it up. But what I learned is everybody's tragedy is their own. Okay? I'd have some people come out, and it was usually the farmers. Farmers are great to work with. Yeah, half the house burnt down. We'll get by. Just clean it up. Do something with it. Then I've got the lady on the north end. There's a plate full of water in my basement. Oh! It's going to mold. The whole thing's going to cave in. You've got people on both extremes, and you've got to realize their disaster is their disaster, okay? And that's how it is with your kid. So yes, along that tightrope we're walking, this isn't going to kill you. Let's get up. Let's brush ourselves off and get going in the right direction. But realize, yeah, it's a big thing. Don't dismiss it. Yeah, kids in junior high, they're horrible to each other all the time. Just don't expect anything, you're not going to get hurt. That's really not the thing. Talk through it more. Get to validate a little bit of their problems and their struggles that they're having.
I think one of the things that's good about writing notes and letters is that sometimes when you're trying to talk to your children and it's in the, for lack of a better word, maybe the heat of the moment,
Mm-hmm.
you're not always able to articulate exactly what you're thinking or what you're trying to get across
Mm-hmm.
in that teachable moment. Sitting down and writing a note or a letter to them allows you time to step back and to think it through and to make sure you write down exactly what you want to say, what you're trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
And, those are things that I did with my daughters from the time they were little through high school. And even today as adults, I'll write them letters every once in a while or a note every once in a while telling them that how good they're doing as a parent or how well they're doing with their children or how much I appreciate them or how much I love them or just positive reinforcement and even sometimes even teachable moments, even as adults where you can, I'm just saying that letters like that give you a chance, like I say, to really articulate your thoughts rather than just an emotional reaction.
Yeah, some outburst you might not word quite right. The other thing that's great about notes is they're not time sensitive. I mean, in that it might not be the right time because they've got something else going on. That's always there. It's always there for them to go back to also. Reread, and believe me, they will reread them. Aubrey?
I think one thing that's really cool, because my dad was really good about writing notes and stuff like that, and from a child's perspective that's now an adult, is that, and I've kept all of those things, is that when I go back and read them, there's things, because me and my dad we're very similar. So we used to butt heads a lot. We'd get in like yelling matches, and then eventually it would just end up with, a letter under my door. And then that's when everything would be fixed, because that would be dad writing out what he would need to tell me. And, usually there was a scripture on the back or a little picture that he draws. And keeping all of those, now that I'm an adult, going back and reading some of those, I'll take something from it that I didn't then. Something that means something even more now that I didn't quite understand then or that I was too upset at the time to understand.
Right. Something you weren't ready to listen to at that point.
Right.
But,
And it's really cool because then it's like 10 years later that I'm learning something new from this.
Yep.
It works the other way around too, is having your children write letters to you. I used to do that as a means of punishment. But I would, if they got in trouble or did something, well, they're too big to spank. I get tired of restricting them, and so
Mm-hmm.
And then I would sign it and date it,
Mm-hmm.
and keep it in a file to use on them later.
All right. Well, I'm showing that we're out of time here. I don't know why the bells aren't going, but they're not. We'll pick up a little bit on this next. Just put that into your image there, a kid playing a trombone.